Hey coaching types. Now, I've been telling y'all I was going to make this video for a hot minute. It's the 8 favorite training sessions that I posted a while back. Well, I didn't post it. It was a reply to this post right here. So what we're going to do is knock these out so that I can live up to my promise, get this knocked out and done. So these are my favorites. I do these the most. If you ever come to my training sessions, most of them look exactly the same with a few minor changes in details. Almost all of them are transitional, right? Nearly everything I run has offense, defense, transition, and multiple lines. So there might be a back line, middle line, and top line to work through, so kids can work on breaking lines, playing in gaps, body shape, those kinds of things. The defense can work on a pressure and a cover, at least, not necessarily the balance, but we can at least get a pressure and a cover in, and lots of just good decision making. So there needs to be, when I run a training session, I like to have as many aspects of the game in my training as possible. Otherwise, what's the point of it, right? What's the point of being a club coach? The job of a club coach is to teach the game. And so they can work on their dribbling and passing techniques. That's my opinion. Elsewhere for free, like in the backyard. If you want to pay a private coach or something like that, that's up to you guys. But let's knock these out. And you'll see all of them have game-related situations in them. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the 6v6 plus 2, right? It's just like it sounds. It's just 6v6. It's run on a full 7-a-side pitch. And I put my targets at the top of each box. So it's at the top of the box, it's at the top of the box, and then you've got a 6v6 going on in between. I call this the 7v7 training. It's basically a 7v7 match without the shooting. That's really all it is. I run everything that's going to happen in a 7v7 match except for goal kicks and finishing, right? So we'll run, well, even kind of like a goal kick. When you play out with the targets, it's still like a goal kick, right? So I even do, when the ball goes out of play, I even do throw-ins on it so that the players can just knock it out. So just get used to doing the act of throwing the ball in. It's a great 7v7 training for me. Without the ball going out of play a whole lot, because there's no shooting, there's no corner kicks, none of that stuff. Yeah, it's the 6v6 plus 2. Yeah, and you'll see almost all of my trainings work like this, right? Almost all of them. They're just on different scales. That's all there is to it. So the 6v6 plus 2, it goes box to box, and between the two boxes, possession is the name of the game. There's no scoring kept for me. I'm working on the shape of the players as a general rule, not just their body shape when they receive and those kinds of things. The actual shape of the formation can be worked on in a grid this size. So I feel like this is one of my favorite ones. I do this a lot. It's a staple in my trainings. So after running the 6v6 plus 2, I probably just go into a full pitch game. Now we add the shooting aspect of it all. And it's funny, the one thing that you'll notice, especially early on in their training, is does a full pitch game and a 6v6 plus 2 look the same? I guarantee you the first few times you run it, it won't. And you need to bring this up to the players. You need to tell them, look, the way we play doesn't change just because we added the goals. Doesn't change. The way we play doesn't change. We don't need to be more direct just because the goals are there. We don't need to all of a sudden dribble and drive and take on 3-4 defenders, right? We need to still continue to make excellent decisions. And so when you go from a 6v6 plus 2 and then say, okay, now we're just going to add the shooting to it and we're going to play a game, watch how it changes and make sure you bring that up to the players. It's something that I've had to say to every group I've ever had. The game doesn't change just because we add the goals. They will try to get more direct because scoring is a big temptation for them, right? It's now something that they're thinking about. And we need to make sure that this is a good way to convey to the players that scoring goals is not what the game is about. It's the objective of the game. But box to box, it's not what the game is about. Scoring, we have to the game is about the manipulation of space and time, creating it for yourself and removing it from the other team. That's the basis of the game. But scoring goals is the objective. We use what the game is about to create opportunities for the objective. So communicating that to the kids in a manner that they can understand is super important, because once they understand the game, they'll play the game the right way. So one of the things that people ask me a lot about is, you do a lot of Rondo-based trainings, you do a lot of positional play, phase of play, building out, possession in the final third, that kind of stuff, right? We do a lot of that. So how is it that the kids get technical? How are they good at dribbling? How are they, well, early on, before we start the positional play, before we start the phase of play, before we start rondos, we do this, the ball mastery, right? Ball mastery is super important. It's the majority of a training when they're at their youngest age groups. And this is usually ages 4 and 5. That's what they do. It's almost exclusively ball mastery and games at those age groups for me when I have kids that young. Almost exclusively ball mastery to get them comfortable with the ball at their feet. Another big thing is when we're doing the ball mastery, the parents need to be paying attention to this, right? It's one of those things where you say, hey, parents, I want you to watch this because what I'm running here is what I want them doing at home. It's what we need them doing at home, because if they do this at home regularly, they're going to improve tenfold, right? A parent's job to help them fall in love with the game, to help them fall in love with the ball, and to want to play with the ball, to make the ball a player's favorite toy, essentially, at those age groups, right? And so that means the parent has to play with the kid, with the ball. And these are the kinds of things that we want to be showing them. So parents, this is what we want your players doing at home. We want them getting as many different touches on the ball as we can with every single part of the foot if humanly possible, right? You want them using the sole of the foot, the inside of the foot, the outside of the foot. So we want them using the laces to dribble. So, you teach them that dribbling is not kicking the ball and running after it. It's pushing the ball with your laces under control. And so that's what we want them getting used to. And the faster that happens, the faster I can move into rondos and positional play. So most of my trainings at 7v7, and a lot of my trainings are run, even with 5v5 to 7v7, right, are run with 12 players. At 5v5, I typically carry 1.5 to 2 teams worth of players so that I can run sessions against each other. And at 7v7, I'm carrying about 12 players. It's usually a 10-player team plus a couple extra players that are close to making the first team, right? So I try to carry about 12 players. And at 9v9, I carry 12 players. So it's like I have 12 players a lot in my trainings. So the half pitch game, or half court game, it's like half court basketball, right? The 5v5 plus 2 that you're going to see right here. It's basically a positional play. It's a 5v5, right? Once the ball touches the top target, right, then they're able to shoot. That's basically what it means. And the target is not limited to staying at the top, right? The target doesn't have to stay there. The target moves all over the place. So the target can be found in the middle, to the left, to the right. The target's job is to get into a position to where all I have to do is touch the ball so that they can shoot. And so we're running a full-on 5v5 plus 2. I allow shooting with the half-pitch game. It's become an absolute staple in what I do. Especially, it's a really great training to run when you don't have a full pitch or a full field to work on, right? So if you don't have a full 7-a-side field to work with, This is magnificent. And it works on all of the same things that you would work on in a normal game when you're running a scrimmage, so to speak, right? Or a friendly. You can work on your transition. You can work on your playing in the gaps in between the lines and your spacing. You can work on finishing. You can work on goalkeeping, right? You put your goalkeeper as the back target in front of the goal. So, I mean, there's nothing that happens here that you can't work on, right? There's nothing that happens in a game that you can't work on here. It's absolutely fantastic, and I highly recommend it. So now let's talk about the 4v2 Rondo, all right? Right here. Absolute staple in what I do. The kids, when my players show up, they go straight into Rondo. So as soon as we get 4 players at a training, we start a 3v1 Rondo. When the 5th player shows up, it goes into a 4v1 Rondo. When the 6th player shows up, it goes to a 4v2. 7th player shows up, a 5v2 Rondo. 8th player shows up, now we split up, we get into 2 3v1 Rondos, and so forth. So we get all 12 players, and we have 2 4v2 Rondos happening, right? That's the warm-up. It allows kids to show up, right? On top of, so it's a dynamic warm-up. It gets them focused for the training. I can go back and forth in between the 2 grids and make sure that they're keeping the grid at the appropriate size, that the defense is appropriately pressing, the players are focusing on their body shape, receiving across the body on the back foot, and making good decisions. So that's primarily what I use a 4v2 Rondo for. And it goes for about 15 minutes. I give them, so if I have a practice that starts at 6 o'clock, it's, usually we go from 5:55 to 6:15 with the Rondos. And so it's allowing players to show up if players are a couple of minutes late or whatever. It allows them to jump in and start getting straight warmed up. All right, time for the 4-goal game. It's a great, for small-sided, especially for me, right? Learning to keep their width. The 4-goal game is amazing, right? Because if they close down one goal, the other goal likely open. And it promotes keeping space. It promotes switching the ball from the left side to the right side to the left side, or rotating it if you want to go back. It promotes staying in shape. Transition is a big thing with it. So it's a great game, especially if you are younger kids, right? And you play 4v4 or 5v5. This is a magnificent game for them. Carry 8 players on my 5v5 team right now. 4v4 is a great training. So a 4-goal game is magnificent. You just have 4 goals, 2 on each side, right? Instead of 1 goal. It also keeps the kids from standing in the goal and blocking it, right? Because then they can just switch to the other goal. That's a big thing with little kids. They always try to manipulate every training if they can, right? And figure out a way to take something away to make the training or make the game that we're doing easier. With 1 goal, some little kid will stand right in the middle of it and won't do anything else. With 2 goals, there has to be movement and a lot of it. So I really enjoy it. I think it's great for the younger kids. The younger kids love it. And like I said, it promotes some things that you want to put into kids of that age, like spatial awareness, shape, moving the ball left to right to left, switching, rotating, those kinds of things, transition, just an understanding of space in general. So it's a great training, and highly recommend it. All right, and this is the last one I'm going to do. And I'm doing this one because it is my favorite. You can do it at any age group. The 2v2 plus 2 is fantastic. It's the best training that I feel like is out there, right? The 2v2 plus 2, it's so many touches on the ball, so much technical work. And as long as you don't put, and a lot of coaches make this mistake of saying, I want the ball to be passed more. I don't want the ball to be passed more. I want good decisions to be made, right? And the 2v2 plus 2 promotes some 1v1s, but it also promotes a 4v2. It promotes 3v1 situation, 2v1 situations, tons of touches, tons of technical work. You get some dribbling in, some 1v1 action. You learn how to draw players to you to open up a teammate. There's just so much going on in a 2v2 plus 2, as you can see, that it's amazing, both tactically for the kids and technically for the kids. And you can run it at any age group, and you can adjust the size of the grid. When people always ask me, what grid size are you using? Well, the grid size that I use and the grid size that you use are probably going to be two different grid sizes, because the grid size should be used to help apply the pressure needed. If you want more pressure on your team, if the ball is being dominated too much by one group, tighten it up. Decrease the amount of space that they have to operate in, and make it harder on the attacking team or the team in possession, right? And so you adjust the grid size, especially in the 2v2 plus 2, to the amount of pressure. You want it to be tough, but not so tough that they can't be successful at it. So that's how I operate it. I started out with a big grid, a large grid, and then as the groups become more technical, better in tight spaces, better scanning, better decision making, you can tighten it up, right? With older kids, it should be a pretty tight grid. It shouldn't be longer than, say, 10 yards by 8 yards. I mean, that should be a lot of space to work in for older kids or kids that are at a very high level. So I hope this helps. I knocked out most of them, I think. And, if you have any questions, obviously, just leave some comments. You can DM me, whatever. My DMs are, I think my DMs are always open. Is that how it works? Right? Can't say my door is open because there's no door here. But let me know if you have any questions, and keep coaching.